Hi everyone, Diablo 3 Season 30 is starting soon and I'm bringing you an updated 1 to 70 fast leveling guide. A few things have changed, opening up several strategies, so I want to give you an overview here. For the veterans, there is a lot of familiar stuff, but with the altar coming back and with the Soul Shards theme and the Darkening of Tristan event all being active, there are actually several ways to level up efficiently. So there are some different varieties to go through. But some things are similar for all strategies, so I'm gonna go talk about those first, and then we're gonna go into the individual strategies. So first of all is you want to complete the challenge rift when the season starts. So right now we already have the season start challenge rift. It's gonna be a witch doctor run in all of the regions. So make sure you do not complete this run until the season has officially launched. So make sure you are able to create a seasonal character, then do the challenge rift. Else you will not be able to claim the cash and you're going to be in trouble. So once that is out of the way, you create your character or you rebirth your character. So this is just a non-seasonal character now, and log in. And in town at the start, first of all, you're going to grab your follower's weapon. In the case of a demon hunter, I'm going to talk to the scoundrel. In the case of any other class, you can take the Templar's weapon as a melee weapon there. And also, the enchantress has a staff. And that is actually really important to not talk to her until level 11. So for classes that can use a staff at level 11, the enchantress's weapon upgrades to a pretty strong weapon at that level. And at level 11, you want to go and talk to her and take her weapon. So once you have that, you also want to grab, for example, the Templar's shield and the Templar's weapon or the scoundrel's weapon and salvage them. Like this, you get a few reusable parts. In this case 16, and then you want to go straight to the altar, which right now is not here because this is non-season, but it's going to be located here behind the Slaughtered Calf Inn here. And you can sacrifice the 10 reusable parts to get the doubled massacre streak bonus from the altar. This is massively going to help you leveling up because it's much easier to keep the massacre streaks. Like almost any class, any build can very easily keep them. In some cases, even you can keep them through loading screens and get like insane massacre bonuses, and you get double the XP. So in general, with the Altar of Rights in the game, massacre streaks are definitely the primary way to level 1 to 70 in the future. So people that were doing like, Nephilim rifts or whatever, it's just going to be significantly slower. It was already pretty bad, but now it's really bad. You really want to try to do those massacre streaks. So it would be advisable to actually try to practice this a little bit beforehand. However, it is not really hard anymore with the double massacre streaks, let's be real. So now that you have done this, you have the most important thing unlocked already. And you have to make a decision. And that is, do you save or do you sacrifice the Challenge Rift cash? So this is actually laid out here in the 1 to 70 leveling guide that I spent some time updating here. So you can also read up on all of this in detail. There's everything in there that I'm talking about right now as well. But basically what it comes down to is in the altar at step 15, you have to sacrifice the Challenge Rift cash in order to progress the altar. And the altar is really powerful, and it doesn't actually take all that long to unlock, especially because in Season 30, the Staff of Herding is much easier to farm than before. So this is the altar here, and it's going to show this right now. So there are a lot of different bonuses, like, a bit of damage here, a bit of damage reduction there, some other really nice quality of life things, some extra like rewards and all that kind of stuff. And if you are playing enough until the second challenge rift of the season unlocks, which is going to be a Monday evening for US or Tuesday morning for EU, then you want to save the challenge rift cash. Now, if you are an experienced player, then using the Challenge Rift cash to get the materials at the start, and then, instantly upgrade your blacksmith and craft an item and these kind of things, it will save you somewhere between like 30 to maybe 60 minutes leveling up, compared to not using the cash and sacrificing it. So, of course, for more casual players and less experienced players, maybe that is a bit of a bigger gap. But ultimately, it's not a very large gap, maybe lose an hour or something like that, leveling up 1 to 70 by saving the cash. But it allows you to sacrifice it at step 15 here, where you will otherwise get stuck for a few days. So if you're a very casual player and, you're barely leveling to 70 and you barely maybe get your Haedrigs gift set or something like that, sure, use the Challenge Rift cash, have a fun time leveling up. But if you are in any way, blasting on the first weekend and you want to maybe even try to go for like some leaderboard ranks or something, I think you should absolutely save the challenge with cash because it doesn't slow you down that much. So that being said, all the steps are actually laid out here, and I'm not going to go into all of the details on this, but you can actually see step by step what exactly you have to do if you open a cache or save the cache. TLDR is, if you open the cache, you have a bunch of blood shards, you can upgrade your blacksmith. So basically, you're going to go to the cube really early, you're going to upgrade one weapon. I have the whole list here, what you want to upgrade for all the classes. There are all the different options that you can get. Usually it's like a class-specific weapon you're trying to hit for a big multiplier. You can also gamble some items from the blood shards that you get from the cache. So usually you try to get like a multiplier, like a bracer or some other thing here. And this is just like speeding up your progression to 70 really, really fast. And especially with the doubled massacre bonuses, you're gonna go, for example, to Temple of the Firstborn in Act 2. This is like the primary zone to farm massacre bonuses, because there's a lot of these little bugs that give you easy 400 plus massacres. It's quite easy to keep it up. You go through this level, easy monsters most of the time, and this is how you level up to 70 really quickly. Now, if you save the challenge with cash, things get a bit more complicated, and that is that you actually have to start with either a necromancer or a witch doctor if you don't have the necromancer pack, and you want to do a T1 bounty run in Act 2. The reason for Act 2 is because it's just like kind of the easiest and the shortest that you can do, and you can also do a Salt and Cool and a Magda bounty. So that you have not really so much time wasted on the boss. So I'm going to show how this works real quick here. This is a recording that I did the other day as a test run. So you start a necromancer or a witch doctor on Torment 1 difficulty, and then you refresh the game until you get a Salt and Cool or Magda bounty. And then once you have found that, you go and you teleport to every single waypoint that has a bounty in Act 2. Teleporting there makes all of the monsters nearby snapshot to level 1, so that as you level up, the monsters don't actually get harder, because you just care about finishing this one Act 2 bounty run so that you can get a Death's Breath and some gold. So you get enough gold to level up your blacksmith a little bit, get one Death's Breath, which you need to level your blacksmith past level 10, and without the challenge with cash, you otherwise don't really have access to these things. Now, there are Visions of Enmity in the game now that also can give you a Death's Breath, but I think that the primary strategy is still going to remain this Act 2 bounty run, because you also need the gold, because the Visions of Enmity are also really hard to complete at low levels. You can walk in there and there's necrosis enemies, and yeah, it's not that easy to actually survive, at least on not like normal difficulty or something like that. But as you start out this run, and you have done the snapshot everywhere, you start out with the boss fight here, and then you finish like all the other bounties, basically trying to go from like the hardest bounty to the easiest bounty. Usually the easy bounties are like the slay all, or like slay X monsters or something, and the hard bounties are those that kind of like spawn new enemies as you go, because those new enemies will then be not snapshot anymore to a low level. So this is something to keep in mind. Again, as at level 11, as I said earlier, you can take the Enchantress's weapon, and then you have like a huge power spike and can finish the remaining bounties. So this will usually take, as you can see here, something like 15 minutes or so. So it's relatively like long for just an Act 2 bounty run, but it gives you basically everything you need to get started and upgrade your blacksmith. And then you can also start crafting level 60 weapons, and then shortly after level 70 weapons. So this is the strategy without using the challenge with cash, and this is most likely what I will do as well when the season starts. And in case you don't want to continue playing a necromancer, then you're just gonna create a new character, craft your level 60 or level 70 weapon, and you go on Torment 6, and you're gonna be like level 15 or level 20 or something in like 1 minute again. So the reason to do this on necromancer is just they are OP, they are by far the strongest class in the early game. And you don't want to do this on your main class if it's not a necromancer, because else doing those Torment 1 bounties is just going to be way too slow, way too hard, and you want to do it on necro. And as I said, the backup option is the witch doctor, which is also all right. Now, what is important is that at level 18, you can find gems. And those gems are important to unlock the next thing in the altar, which is items have no level requirement. So you have to wait until level 18 until you can find those gems. And then, for example, you can go and do like, again, Sword and Cool and Magda bounties to try to get those gems. Because every time you open one of those resplendent chests, there's a good chance to get them. Maybe you have to do like, 2, 3, 4 boss kills or something. You can just do it on normal difficulty if you want. And then you get those 2 diamonds. And once you have 2 diamonds, you can upgrade them into a flawless diamond. And this allows you to unlock this anointed altar node here. So again, you go back to Tristram, you unlock the items have no level requirement, and then you can craft any high level weapon, and you don't have to worry about the minus level reduction. You can also craft armor pieces that give you more stats. So as you have more materials, you can just get more and more of those stuff. And as you level up, you can just equip more items basically. So this is like really what makes leveling a breeze from that point on. The only difficult part is the start, where you have to do this Torment 1 Act 2 bounty basically. Now, currently in Season 30, there are actually 2 separate ways to get those gems as well. So if you don't want to wait until level 18 and then get the low-level weapons, you can also get them earlier. Because we have the Darkening of Tristram event. So you go here to the Old Ruins in Act 1, and then you enter this portal. And this is this January Diablo 1 celebration event. And in there, you can actually get a bunch of gems. So if you go here further to level 5, somewhere on the main path, there will be the so-called magic rock. And once you open this, it will pop out a few of those gems. So you see this here, this is the magic rock. It is somewhere in level 5 in this labyrinth. And if you're relatively fast, you can get there in like 6 to 7 minutes. And when you open it, it has, a bunch of gems. And there's a relatively good chance to get 2 diamonds, which then you can upgrade on the jeweler to the flawless diamond and unlock this minus level requirement node immediately. So you don't actually have to wait until level 18. You see here my character is level 8 and I got those gems to drop. Now the thing is that if you get unlucky and you don't actually get 2 diamonds in the first run, as you can see here, I just got exactly 2 and I got only 1 emerald. This could have been the diamond, for example. I would have to go there again, and it can be a pretty big waste of time because on the way there, you don't actually get that much else. And it also leaves you with no death breath. So you would still have to go, for example, for a Vision of Enmity. And then you have to still get lucky and find a death breath in there. And then you still don't really have any gold. So for me personally, I think that the bounty strat is probably the better strat. But this might be an alternative way to do it. And with the soul shards in the game, right now I don't have a clip of that, but soul shards also drop from act bosses in adventure mode. So again, you could go and just farm Sword and Cool on normal difficulty and try to get a soul shard from Sword and Cool. And you can salvage those into either Imperial, I think 3 Imperials of one kind, or I think there's a chance for a flawless royal even from those soul shards. So you could get lucky and try to get the diamonds that way, or at least you get some rubies for extra damage in your weapon and extra XP in your helm or something. But this might also take a little bit of boss farming and slow you down. Now, when it comes to actually crafting your low-level weapons, usually what it comes down to is that you want to use 2-handed weapons. But it doesn't really matter if you craft multiple pieces. So you can also go for one-handed and offhand, but usually you go for like a bow or you go for like a 2-handed sword or 2-handed axe or something like that. And just trying to get like a big weapon. And then, as you have this equipped, you can also start working on your armor pieces. So then you go for like a helm, you go for a glove, etc. You can also try to get like the Sage set, for example. Sage set is something that you always have unlocked from the start. You don't need a recipe for this. And you get double the death breath drop if you have 3 of these set pieces here. So this is really useful because it gives you like a better start once you're level 70. And then you can, more easily craft your items that you need for your set and your Haedrigs gift. Now, speaking of Haedrigs gift, one important piece to know here is that you also need to get 5 plants for the blacksmith and the jeweler. So blacksmith you get very easily from doing even low-level bounties, but at some point you will have to do bounties anyway. And this means that it's actually not such a bad strategy to also level up doing bounties. Especially with the doubled massacre streaks, you don't get like the biggest massacres necessarily, but you can still do massacres on the way to a bounty objective, and there's like a, kill all bounty, or here like Weeping Hollow bounty, and you just kind of go through the whole zone, you kill like a few hundred monsters, for example, and can kind of keep the streak with the long duration from the altar. So this is actually not so bad, instead of just blasting 1 to 70 really fast in Temple of the Firstborn, because if you try to get a Haedrigs gift and you don't try to skip it, then you have to do this bounty run anyway. And especially if you're a solo player or even SSF player, then those bounties do take a while. So in my case, I kind of just like do the bounties on the way to 70 and have this out of the way. And you want to make sure that you turn in at least one of the bounty acts as you have already reached level 70. So you can finish it maybe shortly before 70 and then level up and then turn it in. But importantly, you have to get a few of those jewelers and blacksmith plans. And for the jeweler plan, you get exactly one when you turn in a bounty cache at level 70. And then you can buy 4 more from Squirt, the Hellfire Ring and the Hellfire Amulet recipes. And like this, you have exactly 5 plans. And then you get the Haedrigs gift unlocked. So this is pretty important. And also for Haedrigs gift chapter 4, you need to have a full bounty run. Like you have to do every act once. So this is partly also why I'm going to do those bounty strategy and just much less Temple of the Firstborn at least. But ultimately, it is up to you which kind of leveling strategy you choose. The easiest, as I mentioned, is the massacre bonuses. Temple of the Firstborn is the best spot here. So if you just want to get to 70 really fast and then maybe, unlock some of the Haedrigs gift, then this is totally fine and not really much slower anyway. Then I mentioned the Nephilim Rifts. This is a really bad strategy these days, but I think especially console players, this is fine because I think they do have massacre streaks in Rifts as well. But for PC players, this is really slow, especially with the massacre bonuses being as strong as they are. Then there's the Halls of Agony Blade strategy, which I would not really recommend anymore these days. In general, this was kind of like a niche strategy for like extremely weak characters, like Demon Hunters are usually kind of bad at leveling on to 70. And, groups filled with Demon Hunters, for example. Sometimes you would go for this, but again, this is something that is only really good if you know what you're doing. And then there's a cursed chest strategy. This is a really nice strategy, especially for groups, because you can have multiple people looking for cursed chests. Here's the list of the cursed chests that you are looking for. So you can have like 4 different people going into their own game. You look for one of these bounties, and then you can just invite everyone once you have found one. Usually this takes 1 or 2 attempts from everyone trying to relog, and you get one. You can already run there, people TP in, and then you just blast these cursed chests. And you can also do these massacre streaks. And this is a pretty efficient group leveling strategy and ensures that everyone is kind of like leveling somewhat equally compared to massacre streaks where sometimes just people drop the streak and other people don't. And there's going to be a pretty massive gap in the levels between players. And finally, there's also stuff like Darkening of Tristram, but this is not really great for leveling up. It's just kind of like if you want to have a bit of fun and maybe do those objectives and get the achievement or something like that. Now, for which skills you actually want to use on each of the classes, I also have a list here. I've leveled many characters in the past. I've tried, every class, with upgrading items, without upgrading items, and, all kinds of like different levels of RNG and all that stuff in the past. So this is kind of like the list that I've compiled of like the best skills to use. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to like, on the barb, do Rend and Furious Charge or something like everything together or something. Or for example, here on Crusader, I have, Sweep and Fist of the Heavens. You kind of want to like focus on one of those skills that I mentioned here. Maybe have another one in there as like a supporting thing. And I just try to give like a bit of pointers basically with what you can put into your build as you level up 1 to 70. If you don't have any other items, if you don't have any legendaries that buff a certain skill, if you got unlucky with the gambling, etc., then this stuff here is what you want to use. And I also have an entire playlist of 1 to 70 leveling speedruns here on my YouTube, so you can go check that out if you want. And you can actually see a bit of like these practice attempts from past seasons of how this actually looks. Now finally, which difficulty do you actually want to play on? That really depends on the current state of your character. So usually you want to go at the pace where you can like easily defeat enemies at a good pace and you don't really have risk of dying. Now you have to remember there are also visions of enmity, so if you ever want to try to go in there to try to get some loot or whatever, visions are much harder than regular monsters and you can easily die in there, especially on hardcore. You gotta be careful of that. But in terms of kill speed, generally, you want to like basically nearly 1 or 2 shots like most of the like medium-sized monsters, like these guys here, for example. So this is kind of the pace you want to go at. And of course, I don't have any AoE damage right now on this Demon Hunter, so I'm just kind of like showing like, how much damage I'm supposed to deal. And, if you can do, like, in Elite in like a few seconds, and you do like most of the medium-sized trash monsters in like, 1 or 2 hits or so, this is usually how this is supposed to go. So other tips, For example, you saw it right now, I just leveled up and I had this big explosion. You can try to time those level up explosions with, having a large pool available and then just blowing everything up. And you also always want to adjust your difficulty as you go. So on softcore, you can always, try to go in a bit optimistically on a high, torment level, even when you have high level items, and then adjust it down as you go in case you get, too slow or it just becomes too dangerous. On hardcore, you don't have the luxury. You cannot change the difficulty on hardcore, so you kind of gotta decide before run and make sure that you stick to it for the entire run. And even as you get levels, as you grow weaker because you don't upgrade your gear and so on, as you do the run, you have to be aware that you are stuck to a certain difficulty on hardcore. But for the most part, you can definitely crank up the difficulty every time you get like a huge upgrade, once you craft your weapon, once you get a legendary drop, etc. So try to use those power spikes and don't just stay on like too low difficulty. Instead, try to do those massacre bonuses on a high difficulty, but not too high where you have a risk of dying. And usually towards the end of the leveling journey, especially after level 60, the difficulty ramps up quite a lot, and at this point you really want to go down in difficulty. So make sure you don't miss that point where your character just starts getting a lot weaker because you don't have this massive advantage from high level items anymore, and the monsters really start scaling up. And towards those 70, usually you go down all the way to like maybe master or hard or even normal difficulty, depending on the class you're playing. And if you don't have any other big drops, this is pretty normal. But early on, especially once you've freshly crafted your level 70 weapon or so, and you're like level 30 on your character, you can easily go Torment 6 and blast down everything and really speed up the leveling process that way. And this is pretty much all you need to know for leveling up 1 to 70 really fast in Season 30. So there are different strategies: save the cash and use the cash. So this is kind of like up to you, depending on how much you want to play and how serious you are about the leaderboards in the first few days. But here are all the options. If you want to read up on more of the details, here's the leveling guide as well. So this is like fully updated, and everything you need to know is in there, including the skills, the gambling, upgrading, etc. So go check it out. I have it linked in the description. And with that, I'm going to leave you. I hope you liked this video. I wish you good luck in Season 30. Be there on Friday. I'm going to be live streaming, 24-hour stream. I'm going to be racing for the world first 150 on hardcore. Let's see how it will go. So stay tuned for that. So hope you enjoyed this video, and see you guys next time.